Good morning, everybody. I guess it's technically the afternoon, so it doesn't totally count. But good day. Good day. Oh golly. There we go. Feeling good. How are you guys feeling? You guys doing good? We're kind of easing back into the swing of things slowly but surely. After a nice hiatus for the new baby. But we're back. We're back. There's stuff to talk about. I don't know if the new stream schedule will be like this, or if we'll be a little bit more open. I'm not sure. We'll just kind of play it by ear. It's night for you. Oh, baby. No vehicles, anything? Yeah, we're going to talk all about this. I haven't watched the interview, but we're going to get through it. We're going to react to it live. And for those of you not aware, basically Todd Howard went on to the Kind of Funny Games Xcast, which is apparently a podcast they have. And he shared a bunch of details to just get it out there so there's no question about some of this stuff. And I think there will be some interesting developments. So what did I think about that Nintendo Direct? I'll be real, I forgot that happened until this very moment. So that should probably tell you everything. probably tells you just about everything. Nintendo Direct, what did they even announce? Super Mario Bros. Wonder, okay. Super Mario RPG, it's getting a remake, okay. WarioWare Move It, Detective Pikachu, okay. The Metal Gear collection comes to the Switch, okay. Yeah, nothing particularly interesting, okay. Yeah, I guess I didn't miss much. Yeah, pretty much a Mario Direct. I think a lot of these companies have just spaced that naming on these things matters. Like, people care what you name this stuff. If you call it a PlayStation showcase, like a big PlayStation showcase, people expect a certain level, a certain standard. Whereas if it's just like, oh yeah, we're gonna just do a whatever they called it, a PlayStation Developer Direct or whatever it is, like, then people have different expectations, you know? You gotta understand. Same thing with like game publishers. When you try to pitch your game as a AAA title, people expect AAA quality. And then when you drop something like Gollum, it's horrible. And then they act surprised that people have a negative reaction. It's like, dude, you told us we were getting AAA quality. What did you expect? Let's see. Matt, Final Fantasy 16 is awesome. Yeah, I've actually heard kind of conflicting things. So if you are currently playing Final Fantasy 16, let me know in the comments or in chat. Because I've heard it kind of flip. It seems like a good chunk of people just like it. It's just good. But there's a very vocal minority that feels as though combat is overly simplistic, which is funny because also there's people that are saying combat is extremely complex and is one of the strengths of the game. And then at the same time, there's also people who love the story, and then other people who say the story is like infuriatingly stupid. Where are you guys with it? You know, I tried the demo. I thought the demo was cool. It still is, you know, particle effect fetishism at its best. It's just like particle effects. Yes. Everywhere. Can't even tell what's going on most of the time, which is not a terrible thing, but it's just a lot to deal with. Especially that intro sequence for the first like 5 minutes. But yeah, the story hasn't really hooked me. The performance mode is also terrible. Yeah, it's like you turn on performance mode and it goes from 30 frames to 37. It's very inconsistent, which, I mean, I guess it's technically performing at a higher performance level, so I guess it counts as a performance mode, but it's why it's important you read the fine print. When it says it's targeting 60, it does not mean it will hit it. You know, very different. I'm going to try switching to the wide angle lens because this one feels a little restrictive. I'm just used to the wide angle, guys. I'm gonna be real. It's gonna be very bright. Well, let me swap. I'll swap camera angles. There you go. Just so it doesn't blind you. Okay, that goes in. Voila. How's that? Is it even moderately focused correctly? Kinda. Kinda. How's that? Not bad. It's a little out of focus, but we can tweak that. So yeah, anyway, let me know what you think of Final Fantasy 16. I'm not sure if I'm gonna grind it. It just seems like there's so many games out right now that are kind of commanding attention that I don't know if I have the energy, but let me know. Which is coming for Xbox. It seems as though there's some issue with the marketing, because again, maybe I'm just in a bubble. But even people I know that have played like every Final Fantasy game, and I wouldn't say are like diehard fans, but are fans of the series, are like, I'll get to it later this year. Just a lot of people are like, I got other stuff to play. And that's kind of how I feel. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure it's great. I'm still struggling to get through Tears of the Kingdom. Well, not struggling. I'm taking my sweet time because that's my guilty pleasure game. I don't think I'm going to make any big videos on it or anything. I'm just enjoying it, taking my time. But I also have Diablo 4. I'm a slow mover on that. The ROG Ally, though, which is what this is from. It's upstairs in the bedroom, but the ROG Ally is pretty badass for Diablo 4, I'll be real. It's nice, runs it really well. Oh, thank you, James. Congrats for baby Orion. Much love to you too. Yeah, that little dude is like the chillest baby. Loki was super, super chill. And then this guy is also super, super chill. Like, he will sleep at night for like 4 hours straight. And then wake up. A lot of babies, they sleep for like an hour and a half and then wake up. You gotta feed them, change them, re-swaddle them. It's like a whole thing. Loki was maybe every 2 hours, but little Orion, he's like, I need my beauty sleep. He's like a week old and he's already at the point where he just wants to like sleep through the night. It's insane. Rocky, by the way, make a restream .io account. We're gonna try this, guys, just so everybody is aware, because it seems really interesting. Restream basically will let us stream to YouTube, on Twitter, on TikTok, and I don't think we'll bother with Twitch anyways, but like Kick, pretty much every platform all at the same time, which is kind of cool. And this also gives you a separate chat with separate moderation tools, which I think Rocky is going to like. So we'll probably try this first thing next week. We'll try a stream with it and just see if it works at all. And if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, then we'll just give up on it. But it seems like every big creator at this point is just like, it's more about just getting in front of as many eyes as possible. It's not really about exclusive deals anymore. LinkedIn streaming. Yeah, exactly. How's Sue? Oh, Grandma Sue? She's doing great. She's doing great. Nice and toasty up there. Can you even stream anywhere or elsewhere if you're a Twitch streamer? Not currently. If you're partnered, no. If you have a contract with them, especially not. If you have a contract with them, I don't think you can even like turn off the stream and then go do another stream casually on another platform. I think you're locked in. Is how the rule technically works. There's been so many cringe takes also from Twitch streamers. Did you see that thing that Pokimane put out where she, like, a clip went out of her saying, somebody asked in chat, would you move to Kick for $10 million once your Twitch contract is up? And she went like, no, because my ethics and morals can't be bought with money when I already have money. It's like, who the hell are you? Like, shut the hell up. What? Like, what are you talking about? It's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It was just like, okay, so you're trying to like flex that you're better than everybody else in this moment. Meanwhile, you're like taking money from your viewers, and you lied to them for years, pretending like you didn't have a boyfriend when you actually did, because you knew that a bunch of thirsty boys were throwing you money because they're delusional and thought one day they could be your boyfriend. Okay, but yeah, you have the ethical high ground. Whatever. Like, it was just so cringe. I would do a lot for 10 million. Yeah, dude, 10 million. I don't think people realize how much money that is. Oh yeah, did you hear her take about AWS and how Twitch is richer than Kick in the long run? Yeah, she said as long as Kick is making money, Twitch is making money because Twitch owns all the stuff that Kick uses. Which, tell me you've never read a single article describing this, or at least you have very poor reading comprehension. It's Amazon that owns them. Amazon owns AWS, and then they own Twitch underneath that. Twitch uses AWS and Kick uses AWS. But Twitch is not making more money if something else does it. Like, if I own a business park, if I own a series of business buildings for office space, and then one of my company, like let's just say Stevens Entertainment, my company is based out of that building, and they're working away on the first floor, and then I lease the second floor to I don't know, a direct competitor of mine, you know, somebody that if they do better, it's not really like this in the YouTube space, like there's room enough for everybody, but let's just say there was another YouTuber company that I leased the second floor to, where if they do better, the first floor company, my company, does worse. To say that, oh no, I'm good either way because it's all within my house, it's all within my building, so if they're doing well, then I'm doing well, and they'll be able to pay more rent, and you know, I'll be happy. So even if my other company is failing, I'm still winning. It's like, no, you got to use more than a few brain cells. There's a few more variables in this equation, okay? Like, it's not as simple as just, oh, big company do good, little company do bad, but big company, all that matter. Like, no, there's a little more nuance. Oh, man. Yeah, Amazon Web Services. It's literally in the name. Exactly. Well, it's this weird thing where I guess she thinks, and maybe other people think this way too, but it's like pretty clear that this is not how it works. But it's like people think that Amazon over here, Amazon. It's like they think if they go and they buy Twitch, let's just do TW. I'll write it the other way. If they buy Twitch for that cash money, then now they're just all in the same level. It's just Amazon is part of Twitch and they're all in the same level. When in reality, it's the other way. Twitch is underneath Amazon now, and Twitch is a little box underneath them. And technically, this is like, I guess we should go even more broad. It's like AWS, and then it's Twitch, and then way down here you have like Kick, and then all of this is under that Amazon. But even not really. I guess Kick would be outside. Hold on. This is what happens when you try to come up with a graph in real time. doesn't work. Amazon. There we go. So Kick is outside, but it's still directly linked to AWS. And Twitch is inside, but directly linked to AWS. So Twitch, the whole thing people have been saying is if Twitch is just doing poorly and is losing money, why keep this? Like, why not just find something else to do with it and then just continue to sell the services? Like, Twitch is just losing money as far as anybody can tell, which is the only reason they'd be doing such insane stuff so regularly. Like, this level of self-destruction doesn't happen when your business is doing just fine, right? And I think everybody can agree on that. You don't end up in the Twitch situation right now where every little thing they do makes the company perform way worse, drives your entire, like, user base mad. You don't do that unless there's a problem you're trying to fix. Maybe that problem is that it's not profitable enough. Maybe they are making money, but Amazon HQ is like, you got to get that margin up. You got to get us generating this revenue, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they're doing that, and that's the problem they're fixing. But they never shut up about how expensive it is to run a site like Twitch and how they don't have enough ports of revenue. So they're just trying to open up more by basically digging into sponsorship pockets with streamers and trying to take money from those streamers. So I don't know. And I think it's more that Twitch's lifetime value of a customer is not very high. You might get a little cut from a monthly sub, but a lot of people are using Prime subs, which costs Amazon money. Like, people forget about that. When Amazon gives you a Prime sub and then you use that Prime sub, they have to pay directly to the streamer that $2.50. And then they don't get any kickback for their services. They're just screwed. That's it. They just lose money. And streamers like XQC, people are like, oh, XQC leaving is going to cost Twitch so much money. Honestly, might not cost him that much, because like 50 to 60% of his subs were primes. They might, as weird as it sounds, they might actually be excited to lose XQC because now they don't have to hemorrhage out all those prime subs. Of course, within Twitch, that smaller bubble, Twitch looks worse because XQC is like 2 to 3% of their daily traffic, which is insane. But still, big streamer. But for Amazon, it's probably better than worse to not have to hemorrhage out those prime subs. I don't know. The whole thing's insane, though. The whole thing's crazy. We are at a really weird point in the streaming industry. Why do I keep getting recommended this guy's stuff? You remember this guy, knockoff Dr. Disrespect? You remember him?
People who've never played a Final Fantasy.
Remember he wears like the same vest for a long time. He would wear the sunglasses too. It drives me crazy.
People who've never played.
Reviews finally drop.
Okay, at least he talks normal. Oh, gross. This guy's weird. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, we'll close that tab, Okay, anyway. Mr. Respect. Yeah, it's more like Mrs. Respect if you're doing the full inversion. Mrs. What's the opposite of a doctor? What would that be? A chiropractor? I don't know. I'm gonna trigger some people with that. I have taken the firm stance. I'm like, yeah, chiropractors are about, the studies say chiropractors are about in line with a good massage in terms of efficacy. So they do something, they can help you. Yeah, no, absolutely. I've been to the chiropractor and all this, yeah. But they will not like cure your depression, for example. My buddy Corey, I love Corey so much. He worked for a chiropractor's office for a while as like basically sort of their marketing person. So he'd go to places like the YMCA and then he'd talk to the old people, hand out flyers and coupons for their chiropractic office. And he said, like, when he initially showed up, it was just like, yeah, and it helps with back pain. And if you have tightness or you lack flexibility, going to the chiropractor can really help. True. Absolutely true. And then he's like, after a little while, the doctor, quote unquote doctor, bear in mind, like chiropractors they're literally not doctors. In order to be a chiropractor, you don't have to become a doctor and then a chiropractor. You can just be a chiropractor with like an online degree, basically, in the States. Maybe elsewhere in the world, you actually have to get special government sanctioned like certifications and stuff. But in the US, you can just kind of go for it. It's crazy. But all that to say, he's like, yeah, the chiropractor came to me and started asking me basically to just start saying stuff, like saying that it could cure depression. It's like, there was he told me about one lady who was like grieving because her husband died. He was like 80 years old, or like her husband died or something. And the chiropractor was like, yeah, we can help with that. We can help with grief by popping your back. What is this? It's Babe and Baby. Babe and New Baby. You guys want to meet New Baby? You guys want to meet New Baby? This is New Baby. He's got his dinosaur Gloves on. Little mohawk. Little mohawk. Oh yeah, you smile. He's just a widow fella. Oh, and his belly button's hanging out. His belly's hanging out.
Sorry.
So scandalous. So scandalous. It's a baby. It's a baby. By the way, Ready to Retro, thank you for becoming a member. Thank you. Yeah, thank you everybody. He's a good little fella. I'm very tired. We keep him up all night apparently.
Yeah.
Where do we get off? Oh, good fella. Get that rest. Thank you for the coffee. Thank you. Don't you like her blueberry overalls? Isn't that nice?
Look, like Violet Beauregard.
Violet Beauregard. When she got those overalls, I said, "You look like the blueberry girl from Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory." I can understand how that might have come off
Especially because I was 9 months
hurtful.
pregnant.
Yeah, she was 9 months pregnant. It came off like I was just saying, "Oh,
I was
you're
fat.
huge," but like a big round baby belly, and it's blue. It looks like a blueberry. I don't know what you want from me. I'm speaking my truth. I love you both. Oh yeah, he's cool. Have a good rest, dude. Oh yeah. Much love. Thank you. Oh, he's a good baby. Oh, Rocky, you're fine. You're fine. Oh, and Karsa, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, no, Nikki's doing very well. She's up and at 'em. First few days were pretty rough, but honestly, I was talking to Nikki about this earlier. She was like, I honestly think that this baby, like this time around, has been easier than with Lachlan, which is just odd. Like, I remember the first week with Lockie was like intense. It was like, what have we done? This is so different. This is, I mean, it literally is life changing, but it's like, this is every aspect of your life has just changed. But with the second baby, it's like, yeah, well, we already get up early. We already go down and we do the diaper changes and get in the kid dressed, and then we go play and we go to the park, and you know, we've already done that kind of process. So weirdly enough, it hasn't been that big of an adjustment. I think people were weirded out when I came back after like a week and a half from break. I'm like, yeah, let's start streaming again and stuff. People were like, don't you want to take like a really long paternity break and leave? And for one, the business doesn't care. Like, the YouTube channel doesn't care if I'm on paternity leave. Like, it just will perform worse or better. Doesn't matter. But beyond that, it kind of just like, babies sleep a lot. Lockie still has his nap schedule. Like, it's really not that huge of an adjustment. It's weird. So yeah, you two are used to it. I think it's because Lockie also is still young. I think if he had gotten older to the point where he was like maybe 3, 4, or 5, and then we added another infant into it, it would be a real huge adjustment. But because like he just came out of the baby phase and now is in toddler phase, it's fresh enough, you know, that it's not like a total system shock. So second usually hits milestones faster too, thanks to learning from the big sibling. That makes sense. That makes sense. Totally. Yes, Rocky. Absolutely. Everybody like the stream. Like the stream. That helps. Kevin, not yet. We're about to get into it, actually. Babe and Baby came down. Rocky, 3 things. Restream account made. 2, can we do a Final Fantasy 16 playthrough on stream? And 3, did you see UB Nintendo thing I linked last stream? Possible. Was it the Rabbids thing? Or is it something else? If it's something else, I don't think so. Final Fantasy 16 playthrough on stream. I'm not opposed to it, but it's like a 50-60 hour game, and I'm not sure how many people are going to be hooked into that. But I do think what I'm going to try to get better at is juggling the game with the reactions and stuff, so it's not just sitting staring at the video, but actually trying to do other stuff at the same time. Because I just think that flows better. but that takes practice. It's weird. You're gonna love me for this? Uh-oh, I'm scared. Ooh, they did a good job on this today. Twitch theater mode for YouTube. Oh. So wait, what is this? It's, let me refresh.
You can watch some ad.
Twitch theater mode. How do I use it? What am I doing wrong?
Find a funny team.
When I click it, it doesn't want to do anything. I'm a professional. I do this for a living. Don't worry. Site settings. Twitch mode when chat is enabled. Oh, it's like when I'm watching. Okay. I thought maybe it was going to put my chat on screen. But I think it's only chat if I'm watching a live stream. Open a live stream and press TY or T. Okay. But it's specifically because I don't have a live stream open. Okay. But still, that's cool. Not for me. Okay, that's perfect though. Yeah, everybody, if you're interested, download that plugin that Rocky just linked. That's cool. That's cool. And like I said, if Restream works out, the hope would be that we can just start doing, you can watch pretty much wherever you're comfortable, which is cool. Let's see. I wish the member emotes were on the little emoji thing. Yeah, the whole thing is a little clunky. The whole thing is a little clunky. Did Luke already go over the Titan sub news? No, it's just like I said yesterday when we were talking about it. I said the most likely outcome is that it like imploded because they made it out of carbon fiber and titanium. And if you've ever taken any sort of physics or engineering courses, you know that different materials react to extreme pressures and temperatures differently. When you have carbon fiber, it's going to expand or contract differently than titanium or than aluminum or steel. Even metals expand and shrink. Even concrete will expand and shrink depending on heat, temperature, pressure, all of that. Which is why the standard procedure is that for any submersible that you're taking like underneath the ocean, you make it out of one material. That's what you do if you want to get certified. What this guy did for the whatever ocean exploration company that he had is he built it out of carbon fiber and titanium, which means there's two different things that have different rates of expansion and change, and it just doesn't, that they don't mix well. Okay, it's two variables of things that are changing and shifting constantly, and when you are 13,000 feet beneath the ocean surface, that's potentially very, very bad. that is a concern. That's a concern. So to me, at least, especially after watching some reactions from some naval engineers and stuff on TikTok that responded to this whole thing, it seemed like everybody who really knew what they were talking about or should know what they were talking about engineering with submarines, they all were saying it most likely had a crack or something happen and the entire thing crushed in on itself pretty much instantaneously. Which, what I said yesterday was, honestly, if I were them down there, I'd probably prefer that than freezing and suffocating to death over the course of 3 days in pitch blackness, knowing that I'm going to die, just slowly waiting for it. I'd probably prefer it to just be quick and over before I even realize something's happening, but that might just be me. Maybe other people are different. And apparently they did find like a debris field. And it's just most likely what happened. I mean, apparently they found a debris field, one of the rovers, and they found, I think they said they found the platform and they found the end cap on the back of the submersible. So you're going to, it's just a matter of time. They might have already found the full remnants and everything, but it seems like it at one point it just popped and the whole thing went. So it's sad, but it just goes to show you
Stefan Constantin
it's dangerous, man.
Super chatted $5.44.
Thank you, Stefan.
I am watching right now Inside Witcher 3 by pinning the Steam overlay browser on top of the game. Quite the experience. I just can't log into YouTube.
Oh, interesting. I've done that picture-in-picture thing before too. I do like doing the picture-in-picture thing. Like, one of the things in Opera is that you can pop out picture-in-picture, so if you're bouncing around to other pages, the YouTube video can just stay up, which is super cool. So I like me some picture-in-picture mode. Anyway, so if I probably perished, at this point they certainly did. They found both front and rear caps. Okay. Yeah, I had only heard, when I saw it, I had only heard they found the back cap. But if they found the front one too, the other piece is that there literally was not enough oxygen. I think Thursday morning, so this morning at 5 a.m. my time, so like 9 hours ago, maybe, there was no oxygen left in the tanks. So by 5 a.m. this morning, there was no possibility of survival, unfortunately. But it seems like they probably went pretty quick. So an actual nightmare scenario, but when you're, like they said, more people have been into space than have been to this depth in the ocean. And that's because it's extremely dangerous. Extremely dangerous. And this company seemed to be sort of cutting some corners and doing things that were sort of, I suppose, just counter to the prevailing standards in the industries. And it worked for a little while, and then in this case you see what happens when something goes wrong because you kind of cut a couple of corners. So there could be more air if they didn't all make it. Oh, Jake, yeah, there was one guy I saw on TikTok. He was like, you got to remember there's a military person involved and that's down there, a former, like, was he a captain or something? I don't remember. He's like a pilot. But he's like, there's people down there, and you got to remember, like, if there's 5 people in a submersible 13,000 feet under the surface, and they know they only have 96 hours of oxygen for 5 people, at what point do they look over at each other and say, if one of us is no longer breathing, there will be more oxygen for the rest of us, and we have a higher chance of survival? And then if they do that to one person, at what point do they turn to another and say, listen, if there's only 3 of us, the odds are much higher? And then it just starts to go Lord of the Flies from there, which is pretty horrifying. And I hadn't heard anybody discuss that, but I was like, yeah, see, this is probably why I would prefer for it to just be quick. Just like, the whole thing is just so horrible. It's so horrible. Only 10% of Starfield's planets have life on them. Oh, God. Get ready for the cope, boys. Okay, we got to just get into this. Let's just shift right into this discussion of Starfield. Let's pivot away from the sad stuff. Okay. So I have said for a long time, let me back up. Jacob, are you in here? If so, go ahead and clip this. We can turn this probably into a main channel video. I think probably works best. So start clipping this, Jacob. Maybe we'll put this up later today, and this will be a main channel video. We'll put it up before the oh, I forgot to publish it. God damn it. I was about to publish. Okay. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. I have another video that's done. I just keep forgetting to publish it. Anyway, but clip this, Jacob, and we'll turn it into like a main channel video. Okay, so I have said for a very long time that I am suspicious of Starfield. Yes, that is the technical term. Dare I say I am skeptical of the game, especially because the company building it did Fallout 76, blah, 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 borderline criminal, they're evil. You've heard me say it before. But my broader point is just that I am not going to give the benefit of the doubt to a company that screwed me over so terribly last time, right? That's basically my stance. And as we've seen more and more of Starfield come out, people have started to get more and more hyped. People have started to get irrationally excited for this. People have been saying that it's one of the best games they've ever seen, that's looking to do things no game has ever done before, things which we can demonstrate provably and conclusively are not true. And yet nobody really cares because it's fun to be really excited. So today, Todd Howard went on to the Kinda Funny Games Cast or Xcast podcast, and he spoke to them in detail about the game, offering some new details, some interesting tidbits, and I want to go through it now. We'll check out the interesting bits and just look at it plainly, not reading articles summarizing what he says, but just actually hearing it from the horse's mouth, what is actually being said about the game. Let's see. Did somebody say 16 times the detail? Yeah, exactly. Also, everybody in chat, say hi. Say hi to YouTube. I'm pulling up chat on screen right now. Everybody say hi to YouTube. You can be in the video. Okay. And blah. And as of right now, we are filming this actually live over on Luke Stevens Live on YouTube. So if you are interested, you can actually go check out the live channel. Just search Luke Stevens Live in the search bar, and you can come hang out with us live when we make these videos and hang out together. It's a really, really good time, and we'd love to have you. So I'll have that linked in the description, pinned comment, blah, blah, blah. But come by, say hi. We have a great time. Okay. Voila. But okay. Okay, I'm very interested in this. I'm not really sure what to expect. I will give Todd credit. I love that he is being more transparent here. It's just refreshing because it seems like a lot recently we've been getting big studios putting out massive games and they just kind of hide behind the marketing and they refuse to say anything super clearly. But at least Todd is going out doing interviews, doing press, which maybe he just enjoys it. Either way, I don't really care. It's just good to see that he's talking to people, trying to get stuff out there and be clear about what this game is and what it isn't, at least as best as he can be. The only exceptions being like IGN when they did the interview with him and they did some stuff with him right around the Starfield Direct. They refused to acknowledge some clear things like the 30 FPS limitation, like the level of detail that you could see, whether you could fly in atmosphere, things like that. But maybe that was contractual. I'm not sure. Either way, it's good. And I think it deserves a little praise that he's willing to do this kind of thing. So I will give him credit for that. Hold on. I got to put my phone on silent. I forgot to do that. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm very unprofessional. Okay. Let's see. What have you got, Todd?
A little bit. Let's jump into it and hang out with Todd Howard himself and have some fun, guys. Todd, I'll kick it off. Congratulations to you and the team on the big reveal, the big direct, of course.
The big kahuna. Big tuna.
So
Dude, I miss The Office so much. I tried to go back to it. It's just not the same.
many years in the making, a very exciting moment. We look forward to just a couple of months from now, we finally get to play Starfield. But I want to talk about just a couple of weeks ago because that Starfield Direct left me and many in awe.
I thought it was fine. I don't really understand when people are saying in awe. Maybe I'm just a cynical prick, but I thought like it was a decent showing, but they very intentionally avoided discussion of some pretty key factors, which to me seemed a little sneaky. And to me, it was more a testament to how good Todd and his marketing team are at building convincing trailers and showcases, which is something he's been very good at for a long time. Going all the way back to like Oblivion and Fallout 3, he's always been really, really good at creating little showcases that sell you on the vision of a game. Even if there's other problems with the game, he's really good at framing it very, very well. And this is just another example of that.
It was truly an amazing moment and something that when we left that going, man, we really got to go 45 minutes in depth with your team looking at this awesome brand new game, and you guys absolutely crushed it. So congratulations to you guys. That was really, really cool. But I want to talk about How do you build something like that with a
Wait, is his? No, I thought his nose was all brown, but no, it's just.
direct? I know your games are so big and there's so much to do, and it's probably easy to talk about that, but how do you refine that into a tight 45 minutes where we are captured, we aren't lingering on something too long, and maybe you cut things out? What is that process like for you in the team?
Oh, this is fascinating. Yeah. Because again, Todd is amazingly good at this. He just is. Like, in my view, maybe this is cringe. I don't know. I think Todd is probably the closest thing we have to a Steve Jobs in the gaming industry. It's not that he's like the best engineer or the best like designer or anything, but he's phenomenally gifted at explaining to the public why they should want this thing and why this thing is special. And that is a real talent. And it's why he's been able to get his games to the point where they're selling tens of millions of copies every single time. And he definitely deserves a lot of credit for it. But it's just whether he's a great showman and whether the game is really, really going to be good and is worth your pre-order and excitement and hype and things, those are two separate questions. But we'll just set that aside for now.
You know,
Spider-Punk in chat says, but he's alive though. I guess you got me there. Yeah, there is a difference.
it takes a lot of time. We've been fortunate enough to be able to give a lot of cool demos over the years going back. Fallout 4 was always a highlight.
He should have been using the Xbox Starfield headset. Wouldn't that have been so funny if he was just using that for the mic and it sounded this bad? I don't know, bro. We got to get you a microphone. The dude's worth like tens of millions of dollars at this point. I think the count I saw that I was convinced by was like $12 million. He's very well off. He should just get a Yeti or a Snowball or something.
For us to do that. We did a decent sized Starfield demo last year at, I'll say, E3, the Xbox showcase. And I think at that time, maybe it was 12, 13 minutes for Starfield at the end. That had been the longest demo that Xbox had shown and got a great response. Going into it this year, we knew, hey, we want to give everybody a really deep dive look at the game and what's the best way to do that. And so we're really fortunate, I think, to have that opportunity to do that kind of following the Xbox showcase with Starfield Direct. And the response really was incredible. Hearing so many people and the feedback, everybody kind of rooting for us and loving what we've shown. You never know, right? We're heads down here in the studio, and it had been a while since we had really come out with that much stuff. You never know how people are going to react.
Yeah, it is crazy to think like their last huge showcase was 5 years ago. And that was for Fallout 76. And I don't think he really wants to talk about that. And I don't think that that's probably what he's thinking for like the last big showcase they had where they were really proud of what they were putting out. So in that case, it was like 8 years ago. Just think about how long 8 years ago is. Like, where were you working 8 years ago? Assuming you're not like in high school or something. But 8 years ago, that's the last time you had like a big high stakes presentation at work. You know, that's crazy to me. I can only imagine the pressure involved. Like, I get super anxious when I'm about to publish a YouTube video that frankly, if it doesn't do that well, I'll just make a better one in a few days. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But these guys, like, if they screw up a game, they have like 5 years until they can try again. You know, like, it's just crazy. Devil-Eyed Elvis, thank you for the 10. Todd could sell matches in hell. Yeah, that's kind of the perception I have. He's just a tremendous salesman, but then people are just like willing to so quickly throw out their critical thinking immediately when it comes to this stuff. Again, I think Starfield looks really cool in a lot of ways, and in other ways, it looks bafflingly stupid in some of the stuff that they're not including. And I think we got to be able to talk about it openly and not just go like full fanboy mode. I did post a YouTube short actually of me just saying, listen, I'm just broadly skeptical of Starfield because last game they put out was a steaming pile of garbage. It just was, guys. Let's be real about it. And people in the comments, there's one guy that was like, tell me you only own Xboxes without telling me, or no, it was, let me try that again. A guy in the comments was like, tell me you don't own a single Xbox and you only own PlayStations without telling me you only own PlayStations. I'm like, dude, like, right here. Look at this. I don't know if I can actually unplug it far enough, but you see this? This is a Series S. Okay? It's right there in the frame. I have Xbox stuff. I use my Xbox Elite controller. I'm fine with Xbox. I have no problem with Xbox. I just don't like games and publishers, to be specific. I don't like game developers and publishers who try to basically scam me, and I'm just not willing to quickly forget about it. I think that's the difference between us.
It's a new IP. It's incredibly ambitious. We're taking a lot of risks. So
The X is upstairs. I'm not going to go all the way upstairs to unplug my Series X from the media center and bring it down. But yeah, in the studio, I have an S.
really happy with the response. It's a lot of fuel to us here. I will say the thing that actually makes me most proud of it is by doing it in that format, we could highlight a lot of people on the team that fans don't know or haven't seen before. And look, there are hundreds more that we couldn't show in it, and sort of their passion for the project.
I do agree. I think this was probably one of the coolest things, is just being able to see so many of the team that's working on it instead of just Todd Howard, like standing on a stage and rambling, kind of taking credit for the work of all these people. It was really cool to see all of those people come forward. But it did kind of remind me, this thing that Todd just said about that. Oh, it was the Game Awards 2015, I believe. And it's when Greg Miller won Trending Gamer. And he had one of the like cringiest speeches ever. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was 2015. Greg Miller. Hold on, I'm gonna find it. I was so sure it was 2015. Maybe it was 2016. 2016. Let's try this one. Oh man, the Game Awards. Oh no, Boogie won it in 2016. You remember Boogie when he was winning stuff? Oh, this is before the fall. Oh man, okay, well, maybe it was just Greg Miller. Oh no, it was 2015. Okay, here it is. Oh, it was super early. Okay, Jacob, sorry. You're gonna have to trim this a lot. This is what that just reminded me of, like getting to showcase people that wouldn't normally be showcased. Remember this? Look at this.
Okay, now this one, Greg Miller.
The person I'd like to thank is Nicole Tan. Nicole Tan is an environment artist for Crystal Dynamics. I have never met Nicole Tan.
Nicole's at home.
I beat Rise of the Tomb Raider this weekend, saw her name go through the credits, along with dozens of other names I didn't recognize. And this happens all the time. Every time I finish a game, hundreds of names I don't know. So today, I'm the Trending Gamer. I am a duly elected representative of you, the gamers. I would not be the person, we would not be the people we are today if it wasn't for video games. So thank you, each and every one of you who does this, makes video games.
I appreciate the message. Even if Greg is kind of a lol cow in my heart and soul, it's still so funny to me. And I totally understand what Todd's saying, and I agree. It's really cool to showcase all of the talent on the team that wouldn't normally get to be seen. I thought that was really awesome. And who better to communicate why a game is worth playing than the developers actually making it, instead of just like the guy that's making broad managerial decisions. I'd much rather hear from the actual designers, so it was pretty cool.
They have all put so much into this game, and we just hope people love it as much as we do.
So Todd, first and foremost, thank you for coming on the show. I kind of want to I've been really thinking about like, what's the first question I'm going to ask Todd? And I'll take it from the direct, just how I felt in the moment. Again, it was an incredible presentation. And the thing that I saw in that direct, because there's just so much information. There was just such a data dump that you had of things that Starfield is going to be able to do. But the kind of fun thing that I want to ask you, which can lead into a bigger discussion, is at one point, you were basically a space pirate. You could board a ship, you could take the ship, you could take everything you want on there, all the sandwiches, all those fun things. But it kind of leads into outside of the main story, the discovery, the exploration that you're going to be able to do in Starfield. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I think if you look at all of our games, that kind of feeling is what we want, where you can look at the scope of the game and the sort of palette of things and menu of things you could do, and then say, what if? And then I'm going to go do these things. And I think that idea of being a space pirate, there's a whole faction for it, by the way, with the Crimson Fleet, or being a smuggler, or having contraband and shielded cargo, or taking over things. Those are all things that we think about as well, and we want to find the best ways to enable that while it not feeling separate, while it fitting in part of the game itself. You see that in the video, I think, when you arrive at Jemison, where they actually do a contraband scan that you pass in that case. So a lot of really cool systems, and we do so many of them. I think what we really work on is how do all those systems come together and collide and create some really, really cool moments where the players, yourselves, have that agency to go really do what you want to do in the game.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot to do in this game, and I'm looking forward to that, Todd. Really exciting stuff. You talk about all of the different systems at play and how big this is and the player freedom. I do
Huge.
want to jump in right away because we got over 1,000 community questions written in. They were very excited that you're going to be on the show, and people really wanted to talk with you about some of this stuff. Of course, a big one that Xbox has been pushing on the XCast side of things is accessibility. And of course, you and your team have been doing this for many of years. You've worked on these settings. Xbox, it's a big drive for them right now, is the accessibility program and making sure everyone can play around the globe. You talk about players first. What is it like creating a game that's so big and has so many systems, and also mixing in accessibility settings? Is there something that stands out to you this time around?
Well, first, I think Xbox has done an incredible job there with everything they've done with accessibility and their controller in particular. You asked one thing that we're really leaning in.
Big game require big font.
Really is important in an RPG where there's a lot of stuff to read. So it comes into play with, obviously, for accessibility, but also various monitor sizes. I'm noticing that that's really helpful when I play. There's a lot more handheld devices coming out where you can stream these games or sometimes even play them natively, and it really helps us there as well. So that's one in particular that we're leaning in on.
That's sweet. That's sweet. And you talk about handheld. Can you share with us, is it Steam Deck compatible? Is that something you focused on, or is that something we share later down on the...
This is actually a good question. I didn't even think Steam Deck compatibility. I will say, having been playing on the ROG Ally, this is like the cardboard stand for it. That Ally thing is badass. I think that should be able to run it okay. But then again, it's only running at 30 FPS on Series X, so who knows? Who knows? Maybe it doesn't run well enough. But what do you got to say, Todd? He's probably going to say they haven't worked on it yet.
The road.
We'll talk about that later down the road. Yeah.
So no. I mean, I don't blame him. They shouldn't be prioritizing getting it Steam Deck verified, if I'm being honest. That should come way down the road. They're an Xbox company. They should prioritize Xbox. That makes sense to me. It would be weird if, like, The Last of Us Factions drops and people are pissed that The Last of Us Factions can't run on the Steam Deck. It's like, well, that's coming much later down the road once we've focused on that. Right now we're focused on the PlayStation port. Like, come on, dude. So I get that.
All right. Let's jump back into the fun, though, because there's a lot of cool stuff, Gary. And I want to get into being a space pirate, but I want to talk about the first steps, creating the character. You guys have now pushed backgrounds and traits into the fold of things. And, of course, we've had the stars before in Elder Scrolls. What is it like now putting traits and backgrounds? What are some of your favorites, and what kind of uniqueness did you be able to bring into that?
Yeah, I think for us, we've done a number of games, obviously, over the decades that have various character systems. And I think we've learned a lot in terms of how does it feel when you start a game? What are those first choices like before you understand what the actual rules of the game are? That's always a trick to get right. And then how much depth does it have if you're playing for 20 hours or 50 hours or 100 hours or 500 hours? And so I think we've hit a real sweet spot with Starfield, with giving you that flavor right out of the gate, where you are going to pick some starting skills with your background, but that also has flavor. People want to role play. They don't want to just see it as a list of numbers. You know, I'm a chef. Okay, what can a chef do? How does that factor into dialogue or other choices in the game? And then, so that's the backgrounds. And the traits, it's a little bit of a original fallback, throwback to that, to Fallout, excuse me. And then say, these are optional. They come with positives, they come with negatives. And you saw some of that in the direct with the Adoring Fan and some other ones. The Parents is a really, really great one that we all love. So it lets you, if you're going to start over even, play the game in a different way.
Can I follow up on that really quick? Just staying along those lines of the skill tree, there's also the ranking system in there as well. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit too?
Yeah, sure. Those, and what we've given ourselves there is a lot of flexibility to the player. First, we have the visual, right? I actually love these badges that can go on a spacesuit and how they unlock. And then they're tiered. So as opposed to being a strict kind of tree you have to go down, you can say, I want to focus in technology, and then the different tiers of skills will open up, and it gives you flexibility within that. There's 5 of them. You saw that in the direct.
Rank 1, you can attempt to hack advanced locks. 2, auto attempts can be banked. You can attempt to hack expert locks. 3, auto attempts ring turn blue and the pick can be slotted. All the way up to 4, expend a digipick to eliminate keys that are something required to solve the puzzle. 5 auto attempts can be banked. Okay.
And we are finding here, what you always want is when people are talking about the game, that they're saying, did you know you can do this? Or they're comparing characters, and those character builds and those stories feel very, very unique for each person in that conversation.
I guess I should get Jez Corden's stupid question out of the way. I said I would ask it, so Todd, just so you understand the background here, when we tweeted out that you were going to be on the show, Jez Corden, our friend from Windows Central, responded and said, oh, will you ask Todd this particular question? And Paris just flat out just said, I'm not asking him that. So then he DMs me. I don't know, he thinks I'm an easier mark or whatever. It wasn't his first choice, but maybe an easier mark. It's actually not that stupid a question because it's a big open world game. Todd, is there any form of space fishing? Is there any kind of fishing activity that you can do? Because
okay, that is funny. I was like, if he's gonna flip it around and be like, it's such a stupid question, and then it's something like in atmosphere flight or something like that, in my view, is not a stupid question at all. Space fishing is a little stupid, but I mean, let's hear what he has to say.
In open world games, that is quite common, and in fact, it's maybe not that stupid a question because if you know anything about exoplanetary, the search for life. Scientists will tell you that the best chance of finding life in the near future is little alien fishies and squids on the under the ice of Europa. And in fact,
I would bet I haven't watched this yet, but I would bet so much money the answer is no.
Recently, we just discovered that one of the key chemical building blocks to construct organic life might be present on one of the moons of Saturn. So I put it to you, Todd: fishing or no fishing?
Well, it depends on your definition of fishing. So, is it collecting fish, killing fish? Or is it specific to having
Is there some kind of rod that I can put into a lake and pull out an alien fish and then sell it or cook it or something?
That is one thing we do not have.
Okay. Expansion, though. There's going to be expansion.
Never know.
Jez Corden,
There's going to be DLC. I told you, Jez, this is on you. The interview's gone bad now, and it's down to him.
I like that.
Let me try and
I'm
salvage
excited
this.
to say no to things.
Yeah, it's hard to say
I'm
no.
smart. I'm really here to lower expectations on
Yeah, yeah. And me also.
He's trying to pull it all in, is right.
They're a little high. They're a little...
Well, let me try and salvage this and turn it in another direction, which I think can lead to an interesting conversation. So the 1,000+ planets. If there's been any concern that I've heard recently about Starfield,
this is a good question. I'm ready for this. I know where he's going.
It's been about handcrafted versus procedural. So obviously with 1,000+ planets, a lot of it's going to be procedural. And you even talked in the direct about there will be kind of breadcrumbs along the way with handcrafted things that you'll be able to do as you discover these planets. But my question is, I take it back to something like Mass Effect. I remember when that came out, super excited, you could go to all these different planets, and ultimately there wasn't a lot to do on the vast majority of them. So with Starfield, when we think about these 1,000+ planets, of course, we want to go out and explore the galaxy. We want to see all of these things. But when I get to these procedural planets...
This is one of those cutscenes I've seen a few times, and I'm not sure in context what it's supposed to communicate, but it seems as though sometimes you land on a planet and then the ship takes off and goes into orbit. So presumably you fast travel to a specific point on the planet that you select, and then the ship takes off, and then when you are ready to be picked up, you can like call it back in and it will pick you up instead of you just being able to fly it wherever. But then other times it shows you approaching your ship from a far distance. So it's like, okay, so it didn't take off, it didn't go into orbit. So I don't know if there's like, this is a scripted sequence, this isn't your ship, or what this means. But it does seem like sometimes the ship leaves and sometimes it stays. I'm not sure why. Maybe they'll go into that. I'm not sure. Maybe it's an NPC ship or something. Yeah, it might be. I mean, it might just be an enemy ship that's taken off. I have no idea.
See all of these things, but when I get to these procedural planets, is there really going to be things there to do that are worth my time? Other than maybe there's a resource here, there. Is it all just handcrafted, or will there be procedural things that we could discover on these planets as well?
Yeah, I think you have to be very specific with this question because, again, remember, Todd is a salesman. And if you've ever been trained, like I've been trained in sales, I've worked selling apartment buildings to millionaires and billionaires. So, like, I've had experience in sales. And one of the 101 most basic things ever is you never, for any reason, focus on the negative. You notice, like, even Todd having to say there's no fishing poles in the game, that was uncomfortable for him because he doesn't want to talk about what this game doesn't have. He only wants to talk about what this game does have. And in this case, it's like, yeah, procedural generation, people obviously are kind of turned off by that because they've played a lot of games where it's procedurally generated and it's kind of crappy. There's just repetitive stuff that's not that interesting. So when you ask him, hey, is there going to be unique stuff that's worth your time doing? Of course he's going to say yes, because he's got to sell you on the game. But that's why you have to be specific. You have to go into it with, so over the course of, say, a 10 square mile area of the planet, or a 10 kilometer squared area of the planet, how many points of interest, how many dynamic events can we expect? What are players going to do when you go in there? And then he has to specifically react to those particular statements and questions and prompts, instead of just being like, yeah, there's going to be a lot to discover, a lot to do. We've got procedurally hand-placed things, as if that makes any sense. We've got things we've crafted that are then procedurally generated around, so you're going to experience all of that. And we just can't wait for players to see it. You got to be specific with this stuff, for sure. Very, very specific. Flex Luke, Candy, let me be clear. I sold those buildings to millionaires and billionaires. I am far from a millionaire or billionaire. And I left that job because I had to pretend that these millionaires and billionaires were like really, really smart, because that's the only way they would like buy the building from you or sell through you. When in reality, a lot of the time they were just bafflingly stupid and they had gotten really lucky in life and had some money. So I just didn't like sucking up to those people. So I eventually left. And now I'm a YouTuber. Yay. Anyway, continuing on. Where'd the audio go?
I think that's, the $1 million question as it comes to a game like this. It's a great question, one that we honestly struggled with early in the project. We wanted to do the planets because we like to give you that choice. Where do you want to go? You feel like you would want that choice in a game like this. And so first it was technically, could we pull it off? And, we did technically be able to, draw these planets, make them feel believable on the screen. Now, obviously, it's procedural, okay? So there's no way we're going to go and handcraft an entire planet. What we do is we handcraft individual locations, and some of those are placed specifically, obviously the main cities and other quest locations, and then we have a suite of them that are generated or placed when you land, depending on that planet. Now, I'll also say for us, we view it as giving you, when you look at a system, here's the menu of things you could do. And like science, and we're pushing it, about 10% of those planets have life on them. Again, we're pushing it to the edge of what do people think, what planets are in that Goldilocks zone.
About 10% of the planets have life. I know some people in chat were like, oh, cringe, they only have 10% of them have life. But like Todd just referenced, it's also about the Goldilocks zone. It's about like not most planets out in the not just solar system, but within the universe itself, within the galaxy, I guess, and certainly within the universe, as far as we can tell, don't have life. Most of them are like big gas giants and ice balls and things. So life on planets being like there 95% of the time would be not very realistic. So I appreciate them having that detail. I would say it's probably harder to make a world without planets or without life interesting, but who knows? Who knows? We'll see.
Versus planets that have resources.
Right.
You know, I think it is a moment when you land on some of these barren planets. And again, we will generate certain things for you to find on them. But if you look at a planet, you see the resources, it has things you want. There is, I love the Buzz Aldrin quote, the magnificent desolation. I think there's a certain beauty to landing on those and feeling I'm one of the only people or the only person to ever visit this planet. So it's a difficult design thing. If you add too many things, if it's generating too many abandoned bases or towers or things to find, it starts feeling too gamey in some of those locations. So I think we've dialed that in pretty well, depending on the planet that you're on. And so we hope everybody enjoys it for what it is, but it is an exploration.
We hope everybody enjoys it for what it is. It's incredibly difficult to do this. Like, it just is. When you make a game that you're trying to do like realistic things to, not all the time is it going to work out well for a video game. Like, if you just were to recreate, like we talked about this back in the day with Assassin's Creed Origins, where they had basically the entire map of ancient Egypt, right? But shrunk down and much more dense. If they did just a one-to-one recreation of ancient Egypt, it really would not be a very fun game, because like traveling from the pyramids all the way up, like, or over to Thebes, and then maybe you travel all the way up towards Alexandria, that would take hours and hours of in-game time just trudging over sand dunes and then along the Nile and stuff. It really would not be very fun. There would be a lot of emptiness. So for a video game, you usually have to trim things down. You have to shift it. You have to prop things up in certain ways so players notice it. It's very, very tricky and difficult. And when you create a game that's set in space where you can travel to over 1,000 planets, how do you make it feel grounded and like reasonably realistic while also having it be fun and engaging? Because without a doubt, I mean, he basically just touched on it. He likes the Buzz Aldrin quote of, the beauty and the desolation of these planets. So there are going to be many planets you travel to where there's just iron deposits, and that's it. Like, that's what the planet is there for you to land on, get some metal materials, and then fly away. And this is why I think it's just important to understand what this game really is instead of getting super hyped up on stuff. I saw somebody on Twitter that was saying, no, the empty planets have been built that way so that you can build bases that span the entire planet. No. At no point have they said you can build bases that span planets or that can stretch beyond like the little bubble they showed that you can craft it within. At no point have they said that. You're just making stuff up because you're excited by it. It's like when people are talking about GTA 6 and they just go, well, I heard that in GTA 6, you're going to be able to actually get somebody pregnant and then you have to pay alimony. It's like, no, you're just making stuff up, okay? Like, let's chill out and look at what it actually is based on what we know now. And this, I think, is the broader point of being skeptical about stuff. It's about withholding judgment and not being convinced of a thing until there's adequate evidence of that thing. So if I look at a game like Forspoken and I say, I'm not sold on it. The dialogue seems really weird. Graphically, it seems really inconsistent. I haven't seen anything that really hooks me about it. I'm not going to pre-order the game. I'm not going to buy it because I'm not convinced that it's going to be good. If the game launched and it ended up being amazing, I don't have egg on my face. I just wasn't convinced because they didn't do a good job of communicating it or because there were a lot of other mitigating circumstances. I just withheld judgment. And then once the game comes out, if the reviews were great, now I'm convinced and I can get into the game. And with Starfield, I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, I'm not super convinced. There seems to be a lot of potential hiccups, but it's on Game Pass. So, It's on Game Pass, so you're not paying $70 up front unless you're on like Steam or something like that, which is a huge, huge plus. Being able to just download it through Game Pass day one is tremendous. And then also other things like, it's Todd Howard's passion project. That to me gives it a couple of extra points and things. And the key being, as long as you understand what the game actually is and what they're able to do and what they're not, you will have reasonable expectations and be able to go into it and actually be sold and have a much better time. Because I'm going into Starfield with a hype level or interest level, probably, I don't know, let's just say middle, like 50. a lot of people, like Mr. Matty Plays, love him to death. He's probably at like 95 out of 100. He still has some wiggle room. He still has some stuff where he's like, yeah, maybe this is great. Maybe there's a couple of issues here and there, but altogether, very, very excited. If the game ends up being 100, he's still going to be happy. You know, he's got that extra 5 points of wiggle room. He's still going to be thrilled. But I'm going to be way more excited going into it expecting a 50 and then getting the full 100. I'm going to be blown away, right? So that's basically what we're describing here, just to be clear. Let's see. Sorry, guys, I'm bouncing all over. Let me see the chat. But Luke, if we follow you, we can't get excited about things. You can be excited for things. That's fine. If somebody acknowledges that they're being irrational, I have no problem. Like, we're cool. Just let's admit the game we're playing. Like, if you want to be irrationally hyped for Starfield or for GTA 6 or whatever game we're talking about, cool. Just acknowledge that you're being like a hyped up fanboy, right? Then we have no issue. The problem is when people start to project these things or to just start spreading misinformation that hypes people up. And especially in the context of content creators, I think there's a responsibility to this where if I start hyping a game up, even though there are warning signs, and then you go out and buy that game and waste your money, in my view, I bear some of that responsibility. I know some content creators are like, no, it's their responsibility because they paid for it. I just made videos. Who cares? I got my bag. And I don't go that way. I take this decently seriously because it's real money in a tough economic situation right now that you are being asked to spend in a lot of cases for these games. And so I don't think you should just go out there and make stuff up, right? I think you should try to approach it as straightforward as you honestly can. But again, if you want to be hyped, cool, just admit and be clear with yourself and with others that that's what you're doing, you know? Skeptics versus Mr. Matty Pod would want to hear his thoughts on No In-Flight Planet. He hasn't spoken about it yet. I've been talking to him. We're going to do a collab. And let me be clear. I love Matty. Matty is a great dude. One of the hardest working YouTubers I know. Like, the dude is a maniac. He's just crazy. I love Matty. But I use him as an example of somebody that just truly loves Bethesda. He just loves Bethesda games deep in his soul. And because he's a fan of the games, when he starts to see stuff like the Starfield Direct and all that stuff shown off, he can't help but get really excited, right? And I don't blame anybody. Like, I don't blame anybody for getting excited like that. And the other piece that's key for Matty, like AK is saying in chat, he's self-aware. Like he will admit, no, I'm a fanboy. I love Bethesda stuff. Let's be clear about this. And that's all I ask. It's when people like that cult guy are saying, and Starfield is going to do something no game has ever done before. And I'm like, pretty much everything Starfield is doing has been done before. It's just trying to put the pieces together in a different way while stripping out some other pieces. So like that's factually false. Like, point to any feature in Starfield and it's been done before and probably better as far as we can tell. But it's the unique arrangement that makes Starfield interesting for people. So that's key. But yeah, skeptics versus Mr. Matty Pod. Yeah, I mean, I'd be down to do any sort of podcast with Matty. He's just very, very busy. But yeah, it's just there's a lot of moving pieces to this. But I just want to be clear, like, if I'm using somebody as example, people, if I have a negative opinion of them, that's usually pretty clear. I love Matty dearly. I just use him as an example of somebody who's really hyped for this and will tell you he's really hyped for it. He's not going to try to lie to you and be like, no, this is a well-rationed, reasoned position. He's like, no, I'm just super excited. I'm super pumped. I don't care. Like, I'm just pumped, you know? So all of that set aside. Sorry, got super distracted. Anyway.
Different than we've had. Where
Let me go back.
So I think we've dialed that in pretty well, depending on the planet that you're on. And so we hope everybody enjoys it for what it is. But it is an exploration different than we've had. where you're landing, you're exploring around that landing spot, and then you're probably going somewhere else.
This episode is brought to you by...
Isn't BetterHelp that company that people like? Isn't that company that got like canceled because it's like a company that does like psychologists and stuff, but they had a bunch of people that were not licensed. Yeah, mental health like consultations and stuff, but maybe it's not BetterHelp, maybe it was another company. But I think we got approached by them for sponsorships, and then my management told me that they weren't going to let me do it because they were kind of sketchy. They were like, we heavily recommend you don't do this. It's like, okay. Is that them? Okay. Then I don't feel bad about skipping through it.
I don't mean to dominate the conversation, but I think it's relevant here when we're talking about planets is, again, I've probably watched this direct like 1,000 times at this point. So one thing that I did notice was some planet biome diversity. You seem to highlight one planet where we did see different biomes on that particular planet. Now, I'm not expecting that on every planet, but this is something that you're conscious of, that you're doing in the game. And it leads me to two questions. I'm just thinking the size of some of these planets. Is there really going to be this giant map that we're going to be able to explore across different biomes and find obviously interesting things and resources and creatures? But the other part of this is, and this comes to more to just the diversity of the planets, when I think about gravity, temperature, radiation, things like this, are we going to have to prepare ourselves to actually be able to land on some of these planets and explore them? Or is it just going to be, if I can get to the planet, I can land and do whatever I need to do?
I love, because this is exactly how I ask questions. So I very much relate to how he's phrasing things. People are giving him crap in chat for like having a paragraph sized question, but this is how I ask questions. So I'm like, and subpoint B subsection A of this question, I would like to know, I do the same kind of thing.
There's a lot there, but I'll say,
Sorry.
we have a lot of biomes. We do look at temperature. We look
the big question there, I think, was, are you going to have to prepare to go into certain biomes? Like if there's an ice planet, do you need to go and get a special suit upgrade or something to be able to go to the ice planet? If it's a planet with a bunch of toxic stuff or methane rain or something, do I need to get special stuff to explore that planet? Or is it just kind of like all planets are kind of the same in terms of exploration? So that's why I find that question interesting.
At the radiation, we look at all of those things on a planet so that your suit and your protection, you can get certain ailments if you're not ready, and certain weather things can come through with all of that. So there are obviously planets that might have one type of biome, and there are planets that have a whole bunch, and their creatures and the plants and everything go with the biome. So there's a whole part of the game where surveying a planet, like discovering all of the flora and fauna and resources. Plants also have traits, usually geological things that are inherent to that planet, and uncovering those. And if you fully survey a planet, that data is actually worth a lot of money, credits in the game that you can sell. So there's a whole part of the game that's really just doing that. It's a little more, I almost describe it Zen-like. You can get on a planet where the creatures there, some of them can be aggressive, where it can get dangerous if you're exploring the planet. And you can watch the creatures. We've actually had a problem at times with the predator creatures going and killing all of the more peaceful creatures you're coming across.
Wow.
Why are they all dead? And then you realize there's something dangerous in the area. So I would say this, that we do everything that you mentioned, and we really try to mix it up and spend a lot of time balancing that. So it is fun minute to minute, but you also know what you're getting into.
Todd, I want to talk about the plants.
I think that kind of answered the question. Okay.
And the creatures. I guess I'll start with the creatures really quick. Of course, some iconic Bethesda creatures, the Deathclaw, the dragons in Elder Scrolls. Is there going to be a special creature in this, or will there be so many that there's not just one that we all point to and say, oh, wow, that was the bad one?
I mean, there's a few bad, there's one really bad one, there's a few, but you have to play it.
Okay, I like that. And then one of the most asked questions was, Todd, we land on these planets and people are blown away by the size and the scope of things. Is there a land vehicle or an option to maybe mount some of these wildlife creatures to use as a land transportation mode of transport?
And again, this is the whole point of that video I did on Starfield. I tried to couch it as best I could. Did you guys see that? I was like, my one little itty bitty complaint about Starfield. I've just a little bitty itty complaint about the Starfield showcase. It's actually pretty big. If you're going to land on a planet and you're tasked with exploring it, to me, it seems unreasonable to ask the player to walk everywhere. It seems unreasonable to me. It seems like there should, at the very least, be, especially considering we have spaceships and we have the ability to have rovers and ships and transport vehicles and stuff in this universe, in this world. There's nothing wrong with it. In the world of Fallout, there's reasons you wouldn't have a motorcycle, right? Makes sense. In the world of like the Elder Scrolls, of course, we have horses and things, but there's limitations there in terms of speed and everything else. But in the world of Starfield, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to just go and explore on a rover or with a speed bike or anything else. I see Anthony saying in chat, a jetpack. They showed the jetpack as a specific branch within the skill tree. So not everybody is even going to have the jetpack. And the jetpack, in every instance we've seen it so far, even in the skill tree thing that they showed, is something that basically allows you to have quick boosts, which helps you in combat or quickly exploring through different bases and things. It is not something where like you start jetpacking around the planet at 150 miles an hour. It's not like that. It's just not what that is. So this is a huge question, and I don't know why more people are not talking about it. I don't know if I'm suffering brain rot or if everybody else is, but it to me is such a huge glaring problem that I just don't know why people are not bringing it up. They're literally saying that if you have, like, for example, here, let me just pull up like Google Earth. Let me do this. Okay, they are saying that like if this is the planet you're exploring, looks familiar, doesn't it? If you're exploring this and you land over here, we select this as our landing spot, and then all the way in here it creates like a little landing pod or landing pad, and you land right here. Okay, that's where you land, and then you start to explore. You run around on foot, and this amount of space is going to take you a while to get through. Eventually, you're probably going to get over here to Cinquetti, maybe, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, and you're going to explore this a little bit, but then you're tired and you want to go to the coast. Well, you can't just hop on a speed bike or even into your spaceship and travel all the way over to the coast. You can't do that in Starfield, apparently. Instead, what you'd have to do is you'd have to select your ship that's over here, hop back in, or presumably maybe you have to go all the way back to where it landed, or hopefully it can just be summoned to you. I guess we'll talk about that in a second. But then you'd have to go back out to the world map and then reselect over here this as your landing spot for the quick fast travel. And then it would have to re-land over here on a random spot for you. And then you land, and then you can explore. But if you want to move further up the coast, same thing. You pull back out, and then you have to fast travel back to another spot. That, to me, seems bafflingly stupid if we're going to give you a planet to explore, that you can't just hop in your ship and fly a little ways. The only reason they wouldn't support that is because they couldn't get it working in the engine, because that it's such a bare bones simple mechanic to add if you're giving players planet-sized maps to explore. That's my stance. Okay, that's my stance. Star Citizen has been doing this. No Man's Sky has been doing this. This is not a novel concept. Okay, not at all. Let's hear what Todd says. Okay, calm me, Todd.
There is not. We do design it. I think when we've seen this with our other games where we want to design it so it feels good on foot. But we do have the boost pack. You saw some of that in the video, and you have skills for the boost pack. So the boost pack almost acts like this vehicle. It's super fun where you can fly through. And then the low gravity planets are just really, really something special in the game.
That's awesome.
You have a boost pack. Who needs a cart? You can boost pack around. Boost. I want to go to the ocean. 15 miles that way. Boost. 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 How does this, like, how do you look at that and not think that that's potentially a major issue if you have planet-sized maps? Over 1,000 of them. And oh man, let me just zoom in on his face because you can tell how immediately uncomfortable he gets when asked this question. Okay, I want to just revel in this. Okay, I'm sorry, Todd. Praise be to Todd, but this is just precious. Okay.
Creatures to use as a land transportation mode of transport.
And I know some people were asking if you could mount like the creatures and alien like horses and stuff. You know what? That to me is on the same level as like alien fishing, but yeah, at least that would be a solution for traveling faster. But anyway, yeah, that's definitely not in the game. But something like a rover would be so simple and so obvious in inclusion, and for it not to be here is amazing. But watch how uncomfortable he is.
There is not. You know, we do design it. I think when we've seen this with our other games where we want to design it so it feels good on foot, but we do have the boost pack. You saw some of that in the video. And
boost.
And you have skills for the boost pack. So the boost pack almost acts like this vehicle. It's super fun where you can...
Emphasis on almost acts like the vehicle. Oh, God, dude. It's... Oh, man.
Fly through. And then the low gravity planets are just... really, really something special in the game.
The low gravity planets are just really something really special. Oh, dude. Wow. He got red, didn't he? He got real red real quick. I'll be real with you guys. This is to me such an obvious thing to include. I would guess they probably were working on it and they probably had to cut it at some point. It's so obvious. Like, it's crazy that this isn't a thing. It's wild. Yeah, confirmed Iron Man mod. Well, modders are going to fix this. Like, modders are going to find a way to add like a little rover to travel on the planet. But that's going to be a thing on PC because mods on console usually are not that like groundbreaking, not that transformational. So on PC, you should be able to do this. On console, probably not. But on PC, that's going to be one of the first mods is adding rovers to travel around the map in. It's wild. Maybe they dropped it because Series S. Maybe it's just the creation engine, apparently. And let me be clear. I'm not a coder. I'm not a modder. Okay. I have spoken to modders though, that are working on all sorts of various projects, whether it's like Fallout London or whatever. But apparently the creation engine is just well known for being very slow to process in new data, specifically like new meshes and textures and things. It's slow when it comes to that. And that's why they've always been limited in how fast you can travel and run around. And so you just don't have very fast vehicles. It's why like in Fallout 4, you had, of course, the, whatever they're called, the hover ships that the Brotherhood of Steel uses, whatever those things are called. So you had those, which NPCs could fly, and you could fly in very scripted sequences, like where you're kind of there and then you see the movements and stuff, but you can't just hop in and go. Vertibirds. Yeah, vertibirds. They just don't have that, right? Because the engine can't really support you just going anywhere you want quickly, looking anywhere you want. It just doesn't work. They can sort of tweak it a little bit, but it's always been a problem with creation engine, especially on console, apparently. On PC, exactly, Archer, you can't just set movement speed to 99999, just go crazy. But on console, it just is not something that they've been able to get working. And apparently in Starfield, they couldn't get it working either, to the point where you can't even just like fly a ship on a planet that you land on, which to me is a huge L. Like if anything could make exploration just feel dumb in this game, that's it. Again, I don't know why more people aren't talking about this. It's like they aren't thinking through the actual process of landing on a planet and wanting to explore it. It just doesn't make sense to me that nobody is concerned about this. It's baffling.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. It's probably an uncomfortable tick, but it is funny that like this pretty bummer news comes, and then the games journalist, I don't know what he would call himself, but the individual interviewing Todd is just like, wow, that's awesome. Anyway. It's just...
So if I could pivot this into companions, question about that as far as companions, crew members, and some of the individual skills that they're going to have in the direct. It was clear that you'll have some crew members, you'll have some that you can station at an outpost. But I'm curious, even with that, will we have the option to just play the game solo without any companions or crew members, or is that going to be a necessity as we're playing through the game? And along those lines, can crew members on their own, through our own decisions, decide, I don't want to do this anymore, and they leave?
I don't care so much about the second one because that doesn't really make any sense. You're playing a game and then the crew member just like, unless you're referring to the kind of thing where, like, you know, in Fallout New Vegas, there's the one companion who has the hots for the Brotherhood of Steel, and then if you go in there and kill everybody, she's like really pissed at you, and then I think she leaves. It's been a while since I played it. Maybe that's what he's referring to. I guess they make their own decisions based on that, like clan affiliations and stuff. But that's probably not what is really, really important here. Companions, yeah, I think are more nuanced, but anyway, setting all of that aside. All of that aside. Wrong mouse.
Okay, a few ones there. First, the companions are awesome. Our team's done a really, really great job with them, and there's a lot of great depth there with the main companions. But we do support where, if you don't want to do that, there's traits that really make you, I want to play by myself. And then there's also skills that go into that give you special perks and bumps if you are solo. Them leaving on their own, they can, depending on the choices you make, they can get angry with you.
Yeah.
And then the relationship that you have with the companion can change based on the decisions you're making in the game.
If I get mad at my companions, Todd, can I space them and take them and make them walk the plank on my spaceship?
You can leave them behind. You can tell them where to go. You can assign them. You can assign them to outposts. You can assign them to ships that you're not using and things like that.
I have a fun one coming in from the community.
Assign them to ships you're not using. That's interesting. That's interesting. So does that mean they can fly the ships you're not using, or can you have like a fleet of ships? What does that mean? Assign them to a ship you're not using. So you can own multiple ships, and then you assign them to a ship, and maybe they just stay there. So if you were to like claim that ship at an outpost, almost like summoning a car in GTA or something, if you were to do that, then they arrive with it, and then they're part of the crew member of that ship. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know what that means. Not speculative features. Well, I agree, Apex. That's why I finished that sentence with I don't know. Instead of maybe. It's like the Cartman thing, Cartman when he's doing the like Glenn Beck thing in that one episode where he's like, okay, Cartman, did you or did you not say Wendy is a criminal mastermind who's more concerned with getting railed in the back of the cafeteria than taking care of the student body who she's been elected to take care of? You didn't finish what I said, Stan. Or is she? I'm just asking questions. I feel like that's how most of these like fanboy YouTube accounts operate, where they just go in and they say something outrageous. Like, oh, in Starfield, if you land on 6 planets within 2 minutes, you get a free blowjob. They'll send somebody to your house. Or maybe they won't. And they just tuck that in at the very end. And then you hear everybody go in and start talking about the free blowjobs that come with Starfield. It's infuriating to me, but it's just bafflingly stupid. And I feel like we see this kind of thing all the time. They'll send Todd personally. No, they won't. Todd is not like that. Todd's like a high-end escort for like, what did they say in Easy A for politicians and ambassadors or something? Todd doesn't just go for anybody. Come on.
Courtney writes in and says, are the Constellation companions the only ones that are able to be romanced? A lot of people very excited about romancing NPCs.
Can I get that alien booty, Todd?
What is the breadth of that? Is there a wide range?
The 4 main constellation ones are the ones that support full quest lines for them and romance.
Great. Also, I had another great one. Someone wrote in and said, could my crew on my ship be all robots? Is there a possibility of having enough robot companions / crew members to be an all-robot starship?
Technically, yes.
Okay.
It's so weird the
Awesome.
questions that people come up with.
Yeah.
Todd
Well,
creates some special
Technically,
games. Him
I don't
and his
want to
team.
oversell. I mean, there's Vasco, and then there's a few other things, but
That to me sounds like, okay, well, technically you could run a ship with just 1 or 2 companions, and there's 1 or 2 robot companions, so technically yes. But don't think you're going to have like 20 robots working with you.
Okay.
not
Looking
to
forward
the
to that.
extent of the.
Are they going to ask about aliens? Music, spaceships, tech and performance, side quests, mods, outposts. Todd is at months away from that. Okay. So I don't think they're going to ask about aliens, but that's one thing people were wondering. There's like no aliens in any of the trailers that are like intelligent. It's all just like alien pigs and stuff. It seems as though there's not intelligent alien life in this universe, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I want to be clear. I'm not opposed to that. Not every game has to be like Mass Effect, you know?
Humans, obviously.
I think one of the challenges of making a game like this is that when you say, oh, it's, you know, 1 million planets and you can go do anything you want, that people are going to ask sometimes dumb questions like, well, can I go space fishing? You know, and you realize that for every one thing that you can do in a game like this, there's still going to be 100 other things that you cannot do because we're not there yet. But you know,
well, look, that's what we do in the studio, right? When you're
He's going to quote himself. The one thing I call on Todd all the time for is that thing he says where he says, we can do anything, just not everything. And that's the key with all of this, which is why I think it's important to have reasonable expectations and a reasonable understanding of what a game actually can do. Because if you expect everything, you're going to be disappointed. Games can do amazing things. There can be amazing features in all sorts of games that you know and love, but they're not going to do everything all at once. Starfield could still be amazing, but they're not able to do a lot of the other stuff that some of these other games have done. And maybe that's okay. Maybe them not having in planet transport like rovers or in space flight or anything, or in atmosphere flight or anything like that, maybe that is not that big of a deal because the rest of the game is so amazing. Maybe. We haven't seen the game yet. Maybe that is the case, but we'll see. But the point is, they had to make a sacrifice for everything else they're doing. You just have to be clear, like, okay, this is what they are doing and this is what they are definitely not doing. And I feel like so often the more fanboy types ignore, kind of like a salesman would do, what cannot be done. They avoid the negatives and only focus on the positives, which just builds up that hype and hype and hype to the point where people start to expect that this is the second coming of Hideo Kojima. And then they're disappointed when the game launches because it doesn't live up to that crazy expectation.
You're doing a game like this, or the games that we have done, we ask all the same questions.
right.
And it's, how do we say yes as much as possible? So actually, they're not like, should you fish? It took us a while. We finally added it to Skyrim, right? So
So there's hope. There is hope for space fishing down the road.
What's great about these kind of games, role-playing games in general, that they're not defined by a certain feature set.
Right.
Todd, I want to talk about the music because I know music is very important to you and the team, and it's something you kind of base a lot of things off of. And we've seen music really get a lot of shine in the gaming industry over the past couple of years, which is all due and that deserved, right? I want to talk about how you build music into an open world game like yourself, right? Where maybe me and Gary never hit the same point, or how do you make sure the music hits at that right perfect moment if I'm 30 steps the wrong direction, or maybe I never hear that kind of music? What is that like, creating music around such a big, freedom-driven open world game?
Well, actually, music is one of the first things that we start with when we make a game. We do concept art, and we start writing the music. I think the music for Starfield, the work that Enon Zur has done there is just incredible. It could be my favorite game music. And we did that very, very early. So when we're working on the game, we're looking at the concept art. The music is giving us all a feeling of what this world feels like, what this experience feels like. How we do that in an open game is there is a whole system behind, like, what is happening, what's the mood right now, and then it is pulling from, a collection of tracks that fit that mood, and then segueing between them. And it might be easy to say, oh, you're just going to do this all the time. But the trick we find is actually when it has time to breathe, when the music actually kind of subsides for a bit, so that when it does come on and we're trying to hit a certain mood that you're in, it's impactful. I've also noticed, and happy to hear from all of you, but sometimes the music can come on and maybe it puts you in a mood. Like, oh, you're hearing this music, and then you're like, oh, I think I'm feeling I should do the following now. And then it puts you in a certain mood that you weren't in before. So we get some of that sometimes, not intentional, but it's not a bad thing.
I do think, I mean, I don't know why this is like a super pertinent question right now, but this has always fascinated me with video games, especially open world games. That music timing and generation is super crucial, and it's very, very nuanced. It's crazy that they get it working as finely as they do. It's crazy cool. It's crazy cool.
Since we're talking about audio, I guess I should ask the other question that we were talking about before the show. This is will the game have this? We were talking about how much we love in-game radio stations, and Fallout obviously is one of the better examples of that. Is there any kind of space radio that we'll be able to listen to as we're exploring?
There is one, but it is pretty much local to a certain location. It's
Okay.
not something you can dial into when you're away, but there is a little bit of that, I would
Cool.
say.
I love in-game radio.
We were talking about that, of course, the radio host. Todd, did you ever think to yourself, I would like to be the radio host for one of my video games. Put me behind the microphone. Let me go wild.
No, I don't think that's for me. And actually, the last DJ we had in Fallout 4 is Brendan Hunt, who everyone knows as Coach Beard on Ted Lasso.
That's
So,
amazing. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's incredible in the game.
I mean, if you're ever looking to add like a wacky kind of morning zoo trio to the Starfield, radio universe, you know who to call.
Thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
Space Bike Mike.
He's like, yep.
Anytime.
So-
This shit writes itself. I told you the creative process was easy. It's like falling off of a log.
So
easy.
Todd, to get it back onto Starfield directly, but to Todd, one question I had was about shipbuilding, and I'm trying to keep this limited. Also, the ships that you acquire. So obviously, we saw during the direct, you can build your own ships. You can let your imagination go wild. You mentioned in there that to reach the far reaches of the galaxy, you will have to upgrade your ship, along the way, which makes total sense. But me wanting to live out my space pirate fantasy in the game, if I'm acquiring certain ships, whether I purchase them or I quote unquote steal one, are those ships locked in at whatever quote unquote stats that they have at that time, or are they upgradable in ways as well?
That's interesting. That's a very good question. Yeah, can you kind of like leapfrog over certain requirements of ship upgrades by stealing ships? And I would also ask, as an addendum to that, if you could salvage ships that you steal or sell them off to get, crafting components to further upgrade your own primary ship. I think that all is very valid. I think that's a very good question.
They're all upgradable. They go through the same. We built those ships with the builder that you all saw in the direct. When you steal one, we do make you register it. If you want to modify it or use it in those ways, you have to spend credits to go register it.
Okay.
And that's for us to keep it from the economy kind of spiraling in those ways. You can fly it around, but if you want to mess with it, you register it, and then you go through that whole loop of up.
So if you have to register it, I'm guessing you can't sell it. And registering it, I would assume, if he says that's what keeps the economy in place, they probably have to have you pay whatever the total value of the ship is, like that value right there. Otherwise, I can totally understand how somebody just grinds for a couple of hours stealing ships, selling ships, and then the whole thing, the game's broken from then on out. I could see that.
Grading it. I will say that that's a very deep system, and one that we expect for late game. It's not like you start the game and then you're going to get right into shipbuilding. It costs a lot of credits. It is
Console commands. I'm kidding. First run through, no console commands. That's always the rule for me personally. That's how I do it. Just saying. But late game, I mean, the second run through, who cares? Who cares? And I would probably, in a second run through, download a mod that lets me sell stolen ships and just make that my career. Because why not?
A good way, a very complicated system, and one that it was more of a longer term thing in the game. You can easily upgrade your ship, like just go in and say, I want to improve these weapons, I want to improve the grav drive or the shields. That's very, very easy to do. But where you go in that mode and you break it apart and you're building, that is a whole mode onto itself that is more of a long-term play kind of thing.
That actually leads me into, and this is more of a fun question, but we saw this in the direct as well. And if you don't want to answer it, I completely understand. But if I'm going to New Atlantis and they scan my ship and I do have contraband, what happens?
You'll have to wait and see.
All right. Looking forward to that.
I feel like that modular shipbuilding stuff is really cool. I can see people getting totally lost in that. And I'm right in thinking, and maybe this was addressed in the direct, I don't know, but like once you build your ship, you're designing kind of the internal layout of the ship that you'll walk around in as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, it comes with it. So you have these modules, and they come with the inner parts as well. And then when you click them together, and obviously you saw it, there are different modules for different things. So that gives the ships a really, really unique feel. And I'll say, when we designed the game originally, when you go into sci-fi, we sort of start with what kind of spacesuit do we want? What does that look like? What do the weapons look like? And it took us a long time on ships because there's so many ships in games. And how do we do them where they look cool, but they feel believable, where you can draw the line from where we are today to these kind of ships while also allowing the player to build them. So that actually, along with the planets, was a big challenge for us, and we all love where it's ended up.
That's great.
I have kind of a nerdy tech lore question. One of the things I love, because I love the nerdy science stuff, and I'm sure that Bethesda's got its own route into this as well. But like one of the things I loved about Mass Effect was they had really cool explanations for faster than light travel and even faster than light communication. Right, the mass relays would get you around, and the quantum communication would allow instantaneous communication over like the span of light years. I presume that Starfield has its own version of all that tech lore, right? This is how we're able to travel faster than light. This is how we're able.
Yeah, I think he actually described this in the presentation, didn't he? With bending, it's like a warp drive. It's bending the fabric of space in front of you and behind you, so you're kind of just falling through space quickly. I'm pretty sure he mentioned that in the showcase, did he not?
Communicate faster than light.
Definitely. I mean, we say grav drive here, but it stands for the graviton loop field array, the way the different bands bend space in front of you, and the more it can bend it, and you're actually taking space and you're folding it, you're bringing the space towards you. There's some great papers out there on like warp drives and quantum physics.
I was going to say, this is not dissimilar to warp drive, right? Where you contract the space in front of you and expand the space behind you.
Technically, that's what it is. And we do get into, with the game, gravity and how that affects, people in this universe, how they bend it, how they feel about that, and so forth. So we do a lot of interesting things there. But to your point, Gary, we did spend a lot of time originally. What is the fiction of this new universe that we're building, and how do we get from today to the tech level of this game? And have that, it's still a video game, right? So I don't want to like overpromise here or anything, but make that for the reality of this game feel believable.
Right.
Todd, I want to stay on tech with you really quick, because I know you're a big tech guy, and of course we see the Xbox Series X, and of course PC's continuing to push the level of tech for game developers like yourself and the team. What are some of the benefits you've seen with the Creation Engine 2, maybe Dolby Atmos? Are there things that
I can't roll my eyes hard enough at the Creation Engine 2 line. It's so cringe to me.
really stand out to you going, man, I love that we can utilize this, or I can't wait for the future to continue to push this?
We are just so happy with the new engine. It took us so long to do. Our tech team, they're wizards, led by Chris Rodriguez and Joel.
They have wizards? Yeah, I stand corrected.
And what we're able to do in the game and have all these things looking amazing and running, from all of the items that we're simulating, and people, spaceships, full planets. Our lighting model is just awesome. The real-time GI.
Does it or does it not have?
16 times the detail.
Because if it doesn't, we riot.
We didn't really show this off, but I'd love to in the future, which is we have some great volume.
No, wizards, but no rovers. Huh.
Volumetric fog and how that interacts with the lighting. Then you get into the physics and we start messing with gravity. It gets even crazier. Our quest system, I think people are, there are a lot of open world games now, but I think what really makes ours different is that all these quests are running. It's not like you start a mission and we shut everything down. You can be on dozens of these at once. And that obviously it creates a lot of chaos sometimes in our games. We're aware of that, but it also creates these magic moments that we just love and our players love. And I think that's what's really, really special about it.
Well, Todd, that actually leads me into one question that I know the community has been asking a lot since the Xbox showcase.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic interview you did with Ryan McCaffrey, and you did address why Starfield is 30 frames per second. Totally understand it, totally get it. Think Digital Foundry did a great job following that up. But my question to you is, was it ever under consideration to potentially do a performance mode that you would take away some of these features like you just talked about with the volumetric fog?
We never looked at taking features away. Our focus is on delivering all of that. Obviously, we've seen all those comments. Digital Foundry, they do an incredible job. I don't think they know how everybody in the game industry watches every single one of their videos. They do a fantastic job. And ultimately, look, we boil it down to we wanted the consistency. Game is running great, but we don't want players to ever think about it. We have obviously seen other games that have performance modes, and we lean toward consistency overall, and we talk to our fans and hear that from everybody. So we're feeling really great. Game feels great in your hands. And I would say, look, developers know this, but there are things that you can do to make that look and feel great. Things like motion blur, how fast the game refreshes or reacts to a controller input, all of those things matter to something feeling great. And I can honestly say this is the best feeling game that we've had.
Todd confirmed Starfield feels really good. Feels really good. And I'll stand by them on this one. This is one of the stupidest points I've heard people complain about. I still think they should have been clear about 30 FPS way earlier. Way earlier. The fact that they waited until like a couple hours, or I think maybe even a day after the Starfield Direct to tell people that it ran at 30, that to me, I thought was a bad look. They should have just come out and been like, no, it's 30. But let us show you why at the Starfield Direct. Because it earns it. It's because we were doing a lot. That's the one thing I will say that I think they screwed up on. They should have been clear about that earlier. But for people to say like Starfield is a bad game or should be boycotted or not played because it only runs at 30 is just dumb. Some of the greatest games, I would even say most of the greatest games in history launched at 30. And did that make them bad? No. Some of the most ambitious games ever launched at 30. And they were still crazy. And they were still amazing. Red Dead 2 launched at 30. Red Dead 1 launched at 30. GTA 5 launched at 30. The Last of Us launched at 30. Last of Us Part 2 launched at 30. Like, Spider-Man launched at 30. Like, there's all of these games that launched at 30. And were great. They were amazing. So clearly you can have an amazing game that runs at 30, and that's not the reason it's not a huge ding. Is it preferable it offers a 60 FPS option? Sure. It's also preferable it has a 120 FPS option. That would also be preferable. But that's a little less reasonable, right? So we can always keep going down the line. Like, would it be preferable to also have an 8K mode? I guess. But is it not having that? Would that make the game bad? No, of course not. That's just dumb, So I will stand with them. I think this is a really dumb thing for people to complain about. There are plenty of things to look at with Starfield that are, let's just say, bold choices that don't make a lot of sense besides the frame rate. So I don't think that's that big of a deal. But again, they should have communicated this earlier because as we've seen, and this is why hype is important, if you leave a vacuum of information, people will fill it with speculative nonsense. They just will. If you don't communicate clearly, people will come in and make stuff up to explain the void and to fill that void with information. And a lot of it is going to be wrong because it's speculative. People are just making stuff up. And then once you bring in the truth, it clears out some of the misinformation, but a lot of the misinformation is still tangled up in there with the truth. And so you're going to end up with people that have like conflicting beliefs at the same time, just straight up cognitive dissonance. And it just creates a mess. But all this to say, I do think they should have been clear about this earlier, but I don't think it's that big of a deal at the end of the day, for sure.
Awesome to hear.
I have a
Mike.
question, and this is mainly because it's been on my mind recently, because I'm like a lot of people, I'm playing a lot of Diablo 4. And I love Diablo 4, but it also reminds me a lot of what has become very kind of calcified and very familiar and gamey to me. We were just talking about this before the show. So Todd, I wanted to ask you like how you approach things like side quests and I don't know if you feel like it's necessary to try and break this cycle and get away from it, but for me, it's starting to feel very old, where I walk into a village in Diablo or any one of these kind of games, and here's my side quest. Space bandits stole my trousers, go kill 10 of these bandits, one of them will drop something, bring it back to me, and I'll give you a better hat. And I just feel like I've been doing this same shit for like 30 years, and I'll still do it because that, push the button, get a pellet, dopamine hit still works. But no, I wish we could find a different side quest or dynamic or a different way that didn't feel so like gamey as that. And I don't know if there's a question you've asked yourself over the course of developing so many games or in this game, Todd. Like, do you get what I'm talking about when I feel like a lot of these quests feel like generic video game quests, and how do you break out of that sameness?
Yeah, and to show how much I listen, I believe you mentioned that on an earlier podcast.
Yes, like he's not.
Yes,
I told you Todd wasn't full of shit. He actually, yeah,
I
he
think
listens.
you said, I guarantee Starfield's going to have some of this.
Yeah, I mean, because it's hard to completely reinvent the wheel, but like I don't know, I just feel like it always reminds me that I'm in a video game when someone tells me a story like that. Like somebody stole my pet cat, go find it, and I'll give you some space gold or a better pair of gloves or something. I don't know.
I'm interested in his thoughts on this because he does this for a living day in, day out. My thought is just that this is, like he said, this is just the push of the button, get a pellet, get a treat, little dopamine hit that animals like us just like. We just it hooks us, so it's just a fact of our biology, basically, that I don't think you can really escape. But I'm interested in what Todd thinks.
It feels like we've just accepted that that's what side quests are now, and I wish there was a way to approach them differently. Is there anything in the side questing off of the main quest line in Starfield where I'm going to go, oh, that's a different way to do a side quest? That's cool.
Well, look, it comes down to making all of that content, and our folks have done an incredible job there, and there really is a lot of it, so we have a lot of specific quests, but it's not what you're talking about, the sort of random one-off ones. I don't think it's mutually exclusive. We obviously have a bunch of that.
Right.
You can land on a planet and go to an outpost, and we're going to generate a mission nearby, and you're going to see some of that. But I think that's okay if you're in for it. And those activities, if the gameplay is good, can be fun, but they shouldn't take the place of those more in-depth ones. And we've done a lot of those.
Right.
Todd, you talk about content.
I guess maybe the one innovation that's been made is there's a lot of games where the narrative payoff is even better than the in-game reward. Like in The Witcher 3, a lot of the best side quests I can think of, I don't really remember what the payoff was. It was more the emotional satisfaction of resolving this issue or taking care of this. Even like little side quests, like in Hearts of Stone, when there's those two people that are fighting for the vineyard, and you show up and then you try to negotiate with everybody. Like little things like that just stick with you. The little pictures and stories that you remember very, very clearly. Or the one of the first side quests in The Witcher 3, which is the lady with the frying pan that has all the soot or whatever you call it scraped off of it because he was making ink with it. Like those stories I remember. I don't remember the XP I got paid for it. I don't remember that little bitty thing, but I do remember the story and the people, the human element of it, if that makes sense.
I'm going to start ramping us down. So guys over there, start thinking of your final questions for Todd. I want to be respectful of his time and get us out of here in a timely manner. But talk about content, Todd, and of course you and the team, and thinking about what you guys can create, but also there's a side of the mods. And your team at Bethesda have done a really great job with mods and allowing the community to create and build within your worlds. have you seen something that stands out to you in previous games through the community where you go, man, that team did a really great job. That is awesome on the mod side of things. And of course, moving forward, are you excited to put mods into this game with so many planets to explore and the opportunity to create?
Yeah, I think Starfield is going to be kind of a modder's paradise. It's part of our DNA here. We've been doing it for over 20 years. And our community around that, because look, we've usually been classically single player. That has been our community. And people are still modding our games and playing them. So we're doing a lot of it. And I think one of the things that I'll call out is it's important for us not just to enable that, but to participate, right? To make it easy for them, to make this where they can make it not just a hobby, but a career. We've had a lot of great success there. So looking forward to what everyone's going to do with Starfield, just like cannot imagine.
That's awesome.
Same. I'm going to be very excited for that. Question I have as we wrap this up, there's 1,000 more I would love to ask, but we want to be respectful of your time. Outposts, you kind of slightly mentioned that a few minutes ago, but something I caught again during the rec towards the end was it sounds like there's going to be kind of an advanced feature with some of these outposts where you can actually leverage some of the plants and animals on the particular planet that you're on to generate resources, which then made me think about, well, if I land on a planet, am I limited in the resources that I can use to build an outpost? In other words, is there only so much I can do without, is it unlimited what I can do for an outpost is what I'm trying to say. Can I build whatever I want, or do I have to have a certain amount of resources to build whatever, design that I'm thinking of at that time?
So Outposts, kind of like I was talking about with shipbuilding, is a very deep system, and it does involve a lot of resources to really, do what you want to do. You can do all of that, so you can land on a planet and start building, but you're going to need to really go crazy. You're going to need to develop your character skills. You're going to have to collect those resources, but there is a ton there, and you can even actually somewhat connect them between planets, shuttling cargo between them. So it's a really, really cool system, but, we'll say, again, like shipbuilding, one that has a lot of depth. It's not really meant as like an early player kind of system. It's meant to be one that you're going to play over a long period of time.
Well, that brings me on to just a quick follow-up on that. So potentially can Outpost be an economy generator for you as well?
Yes, they can.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
Makes sense. Easy peasy.
Gary, what are final questions for Todd?
I always like to ask at least one question from the point of view of like a creator, because I create stuff and I'm always really neurotic about putting it out into the world. Are people going to like it? I just wanted to ask Todd, like, as we close in on the final months now, this game, going out into the world and it being a big moment of truth after all these years of development, like where are you emotionally typically at this point, and where are you right now with this one? Like, is there a certain amount of confidence, like we know we've got the goods and it's all going to be great, or is there always that little bit of imposter syndrome, neurosis, like, oh, you never know until it goes out into the world? Like, where are you on that spectrum?
But, you've been through it, Gary. You have something. We've worked just so hard on it. I'll say again, the team here, many of us have done this for decades together in some cases, and we have put just everything that we think we've learned and maximum effort into this one. And look, we love it, and our fingers are crossed that everybody feels the way that we do about it. And we're just really kind of humbled by everybody's excitement for it, and it's fuel for us, over these last few months to make it as good as it can be for everybody.
Do you feel any additional pressure given, I mean, obviously this is not even within your control, it's just kind of the way that the history of Xbox has worked out, that, the vibes have been off with Xbox for a little bit, like where are the games, so where are the big games, and Starfield has kind of emerged as just wait for Starfield, this is going to be, like, it kind of feels like, when they redid Star Wars, right, they paid $4 billion, I remember J.J. Abrams said, this movie didn't cost $150 million, it cost $4 billion, because that's what we paid for Star Wars, and this is the kind of thing where, like, if something that big, the stock price of the parent company moves on how these mega, tentpole things are received. Do you feel like you're carrying, like, the weight of, like, Xbox on your shoulders right now, when that's kind of the narrative that seems to be emerging, like Starfield is going to be the standard bearer for Xbox this year?
I think I was feeling better before you asked that question.
That's good. It's like, well, when you put it like that, oh God. Jesus.
Look, we're focusing on what we can do, like I said, on this game. And I would say Xbox has been their support has been incredible on this, with Phil and Matt Booty and the team over there. And obviously we worked with them for a long time, going back 20 years at Morrowind, but being part of Xbox and their support has really, it has allowed us to be this ambitious and take these risks, and fingers crossed.
That's great. Paris?
Yeah, and I mean, one thing you got to give Xbox credit for, apparently what they said was the original release date for Starfield was way farther back than people thought before the original announcement. So apparently it was originally targeting, I saw somebody report, it was looking at probably a 2021 release date originally, and then when Xbox got involved, they just said, whatever time you need, go for it. Just go crazy. And it actually goes back to, like, you guys are a long time ago, years ago, I had heard rumblings from some people I knew that were involved in this that were saying, no, Starfield's been shooting for like 2021, probably, possibly they just bump it to 2022, but probably sometime around there, like holiday 21, early 22, somewhere in there. And then Jason Schreier actually like quote tweeted me and is like, no shade to anybody, but this isn't the case. People directly within higher management at BGS are saying it's actually going to come much later. But people on like this other subset of the company that have been a little disconnected for a little bit are saying that it's targeting late 2021, early 2022. turns out my contact was one of those people in that other segmented group who was going on the old information before Xbox took over and basically gave them whatever delays they wanted. So, as I've said before, Starfield probably launches super buggy and broken because every single Bethesda Game Studios game for the last 26 years has launched super buggy and broken. Maybe this one's different, but probably not. But one of the signs that it could be different is that Xbox has allowed them to delay it and polish it way more than any game they've put out before. So that could be a good sign, but it still doesn't change the fact that their track record is quite poor when it comes to polish.
One more for you. I see you.
Sneaking it in. Two quick yes or no ones for you. Are there black holes in this game? And my dear friend Emily, she would kill me if I did not ask this. Can Vasco wear a hat like Mr. Handy did in Fallout 4?
I'm going to pass on the first question. Can Vasco wear a hat? Not currently, but I'm sure that will be an early mod.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
Todd, of course, I want to thank you for joining us
Thank you,
today.
guys.
I have two quick small ones for you. Have you ever wanted to do a smaller project? You and the team, Todd, have created these massive, incredible games. Have you ever thought about making a small game?
Like a little Pentiment kind of thing on the side, yeah.
Oh, we have the mobile team. We did a Fallout Shelter, which I think is our most played game ever at this point. So we do some of that. We have some mobile stuff going too that looks really cool that we haven't talked about. So we get to dabble in that. But at the end of the day, you know, I as a player, I like the big worlds that I can get lost in. That's why, you know, many of us here wanted to make games. And it's really, really rewarding for us, and just so thankful for the opportunity, and thankful to be here with you guys today.
Makes sense. And he also is the kind of guy that's not going to be working on tiny projects. He's always going to be involved in like 15 different things. So makes sense. So all told, I mean, there's a good amount of information that they put out there. I will give them credit. They did ask him some tougher questions, made him actually sit up and answer some stuff that he probably wouldn't want to talk about otherwise. Oh, sorry. Text from the wife. Well, I've got to wrap this up because Lockie just woke up. So, okay. 2 minutes. Then I'll be up. Because baby just woke up. So I've got to go get baby because Nikki has other baby. So I think they did a generally pretty good job there. I thought that they asked some hard-hitting questions. There were some others that I wanted to hear, but all told, not a total waste, like a lot of the IGN coverage was. And in terms of some of those tough things, like the no rovers and stuff, no vehicles or anything like that, I'm going to be very interested to see how some of the more hardcore fanboys react to this, because to me, that's a big deal. And it seems crazy that more people are not concerned with that, but I guess time will tell if it actually matters. And again, the game could still be great, even with no vehicles. But it's still just a really, really weird choice to not have that. Really, really weird choice. Anyway, I'm going to go pick up Lockie. He's going to get up from nap here in just a second, so I'm going to go get him up. Thanks for watching. Thanks for chilling with me. I love all of you dearly. We'll be back on stream soon. I'm not sure exactly when, but I'll make an event and all of that. And we'll get back into our regular streaming schedule as soon as we can. I'm pushing, don't worry, but we're just getting back into the groove of things, so bear with me. Anyway, thank you for watching, everybody. Thanks for chilling with me. Hugs and kisses. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. And yeah, all of you guys, I love you. I'll see you soon. Okay, stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.